Good morning, everybody. Matt Moda here to give you my favorite NBA player prop picks today. The Splash Zone is back in your life. We're talking the NBA betting slate for tonight, Friday, December 6th. Before we can get into today's picks, where I'm going to have 5 plus money bangers for you guys, we do have to do a recap from yesterday, which was a completely fine day overall. We went 2-2 on our picks. One of them got refunded, Jakob Poeltl. He didn't play, so that one got refunded. We cashed out Luka and Stefan Castle over their assist prop, but we lost Şengün and his rebounds plus assist prop, and we lost Zach Collins and his point prop. 2-2, up 0.29 units yesterday, which up 0.29 units is not the most incredible thing in the world, but any day in which you can make money, we will take. And that's exactly why we play these plus money plays. You can go 2-2 and still make money. On the entire season, it's been not great. I mean, we're up like less than a unit on the season, so obviously we're hoping for much more success than being up less than a unit. But considering where we started, I'll take still being green on the year, especially after we had a couple rough days this week. Nice to get back a little bit in the green category yesterday. As I mentioned, we got 5 plus money bangers for today. Make sure to like the video, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. And let's get into it. Play number 1, Kings versus Spurs. Domantas Sabonis, 20 plus points, plus 100 odds at flip. Now, I will admit it feels weird backing anybody on the Kings to do anything. Kings are having a weird year. Tough to really know what to expect with the Kings. Sabonis has been really, really consistent for them, and he gets a great matchup against the Spurs. So those two things put together makes me feel comfortable backing Sabonis tonight. In general, on the season, Sabonis has hit this in 13 of 21 games this year, 7 of his last 10, and 4 of his last 5 as well. Now, those of you that know me know that I'm generally not a hit rate type of guy. That insane type of hit rate normally would scare me off of a play, but he did miss it in the most recent game that he played, which was last night. He played the Grizzlies, only scored 17 points in that one. So a little bit of a mild positive regression for him after missing it last game and then cashing it in 4 straight games prior to that. I'm also not concerned of the fact that he is on the second half of a back-to-back. He's played in 4 back-to-backs this season. He scored at least 20 points in 3 of those 4. So that's not me saying like he's a bet on back-to-back player, just that it's nothing that I'm scared of. And as mentioned earlier, this is a great matchup for Sabonis against the Spurs. The Spurs allow the 4th most points per game specifically to centers, and they allow the 5th most points per game to pick and roll rollmen. Domantas Sabonis, he scores the majority of his points in terms of play type as the rollman, and he actually scores the 3rd most points per game in the entire NBA as a pick and roll rollman. I mean, what do we see with the Kings? It's spamming pick and rolls with Domantas Sabonis. He does a good job scoring, going up against a defense that will allow the rollman to score. The last 4 centers against the Spurs have hit their point prop over. That includes Nikola Vucevic. Vuce just scored 39 points against them last night. I'm not expecting almost a 40-burger from Sabonis, but they did just get annihilated by a center last night. That also includes Sabonis just a couple days ago when he scored 25 against them. Sabonis has actually scored 20 points in 7 straight games against the Spurs. That dates back a couple years. He did it twice this year, and all 3 games against them last year. His last 5 games against the Spurs, 23, 25, 27, 22, and 31 points. So yeah, history of success against the Spurs. Great matchup for him in a great spot where he didn't hit it yesterday. I absolutely love this play. I love backing Sabonis to get to 20 plus points. That's play number 1. Next up, Lakers versus Hawks. Trae Young over 11.5 assists plus 105 odds at Bet365. Now, Trae Young is absolutely in the do not bet list if you're taking him to score points or you're taking him to make 3-pointers. So after what Trae Young did to us a couple nights ago, you're going to feel a little bit gross backing Trae. This is completely different. We're backing him to get assists, not for him to score points. Totally different. Trae's having a terrible year from a scoring perspective. He's having an awesome year from a playmaking perspective. He leads the NBA in both potential assists and actual assists per game. He averages 21.2 potential assists per game. He averages exactly 12 assists per game. He's gotten to the 12 assist number in 12 of 22 games. A lot of 2s there. 12 assists in 12 of 22 games, and he's done it in 5 of his last 10. Now, he did miss it in his last game, but he had 21 potential assists in that game. 2 games in this stretch of the last 10 games in which he did not get to 12 assists One of them was last game. He had 21 potentials. Another game, he had 24 potential assists, just could not get to 12 actual assists. Considering he averages about a 56% hit rate on his potential assists, as long as we're getting a number above 20, I'll feel pretty good about him getting to 12 actual assists. And he's recorded at least 21 potential assists in 7 of his last 10 games, and he averages over 22 potential assists in his last 10 games as well. Hit rate, all that stuff looks good for Trae Young. Not even the hit rate, but like the numbers even going further than that. And it's a great matchup against a bad Lakers defense that's honestly a little bit of a train wreck. The Lakers are allowing the most assists per game in the NBA. Not to point guards, just the most assists in general. They have the 5th worst defensive net rating, and they're allowing the 3rd most points in the paint. Considering they only allow the 6th fewest points per game to pick and roll ball handlers, that's why they're a good matchup for guys like Trae Young, who run a bunch of pick and rolls. The Lakers aren't allowing them to score, they're just allowing them to assist. The Lakers are allowing the 3rd most assists per game, specifically to point guards. So the most in the NBA, 3rd most to point guards. I love this play, backing Trae to get to 12 assists. He feels good. Backing an assist play, he feels gross. Backing any other type of play for Trae Young, that's play number 2. Next up, 3rd play, Bucks versus Celtics. Damian Lillard, 25 plus points, plus 105 odds at DraftKings. Time for a system play. Take your pull-up, point guard, pick and roll guard props, or point props against the Celtics. As good as the Celtics defense is, the one area, and I'm not even going to say they're weak because it's by design. So I'm going to say the one area in which they allow points is to pull up pick and roll threats like Damian Lillard. On the entire season, the Celtics have allowed the 3rd most points per game, both to pick and roll ball handlers, and the 3rd most points per game via isolation as well. That's like half of where Damian Lillard's points come from, is running a pick and roll or via isolation. And related to that, so like, okay, they're allowing these points. Where are they allowing them? They're allowing them because they're allowing Celtics to pull up when they're running a pick and roll or running an isolation. The Celtics are allowing the 3rd most pull-up 3-point attempts in the entire NBA, the 2nd most over the last 10 games, and the highest frequency of shots against them are pull-up 3-pointers. And they're allowing about the 7th most just made pull-up shots against them in general. And after a slow start for Damian Lillard and the Bucks in general, the Bucks have been cooking as a team recently, and Damian Lillard himself has also been cooking recently. So admittedly, this is not a fate of recent results type of play. Instead, we're backing a good shooter who is in the middle of a hot streak. He scored 25 plus points now in 5 straight games. Again, that generally would make me nervous. If he was playing a different team, if he wasn't playing the Celtics, I would probably not be on Damian Lillard points, but it's such a good matchup for him. He scores the 2nd most points per game in the entire NBA as the pick and roll ball handler, the 2nd most in the entire NBA, and about the 16th most via ISO. So like amazing as a pick and roll ball handler. That's where the majority of his points come from. And then he's still good, like top 16 in the entire NBA is still pretty good. And as mentioned earlier, the Celtics allow the 3rd most points per game to both of these categories, to both pick and roll ball handler and via isolation. And as I mentioned, the Celtics are a defense that will allow pull-up shooters to have good games against them. Damian Lillard scores the 6th most points in the NBA from pull-up shooting. Last time these two teams played, Dame missed this number, did not score 25 points the game prior to that. He scored 33. Let's hope he does that again tonight, at least getting to the 25 number to cash this out for us. Next up, play number 4, Magic versus 76ers. Tyrese Maxey, 25 plus points, plus 105 odds at FanDuel. Another point prop here, back in Maxey to bounce back from his last 2 games. Honestly, the Magic and the Celtics are pretty similar in that their defense is very, very good overall. But the one area in which they allow points is to the point guard position, and specifically to point guards who can pull up and run pick and rolls. And for Maxey specifically, this is a nice fate of recent results, along with it being a good matchup. Maxey has missed this number in 2 straight games. He's honestly shot horribly in both of those games as well. 2 games ago, he shot 5 of 16. Last game, he shot 7 of 19. And combined in those 2 games, 1 of 14 from 3-point range. Now, the 2 games prior to that, somewhat of a blow-up game, 39 and 28 points in those 2 games, making 6 and 5 3-pointers in those 2 games as well. So it's only natural after 2 games in a row in which he made 6 and then 5 3-pointers for things to swing back the other way. It's been a little bit of a lost season for Maxey, but I still trust him. I still think he's a good player. I'm expecting him to play better tonight just from a law of averages perspective. And it's a good matchup, as I mentioned, against the Magic. Good matchup against the Magic. The Magic literally allow the fewest points per game in the entire NBA overall. No team allows fewer points than the Orlando Magic. But They allow the 9th most points to point guards specifically. So generally, when you look at player props against the Magic, point props get suppressed against them, but they should not be suppressed for point guards specifically. The Magic allow the 7th most points per game to pick and roll ball handlers, on the 7th most points per possession, and that's the area in which Maxey scores the majority of his points. The main pick and roll ball handler scores the 10th most points per game as the pick and roll ball handler in the entire NBA. Magic allow the 7th most made pull-up field goal attempts against them. Maxey takes the 5th most pull-up field goal attempts in the entire NBA. These two teams just played on Wednesday. Generally, I like to avoid these types of situations, except in this case where Maxey missed it last game. He also was mad because he thought he got fouled on the game-tying basket. I'm not a ref guy. I'm not going to say whether he was fouled or not, but if that added motivation adds 2 extra buckets for Maxey tonight, that'll only help us get to this 25-plus point number. So I like him to bounce back tonight. Now for our 5th and final pick of the video. Timberwolves versus Warriors game. Rudy Gobert, double-double, plus 140 odds at FanDuel. Hoping for a nice double D game for Rudy Gobert. As always, we save our final play for the juiciest in terms of odds. Essentially, we're betting on Gobert to get to 10-plus points and 10-plus rebounds in this game. Now, rebound props, admittedly, they've burned us the last 2 games with the Warriors. Jokic and Şengün both did not hit their rebound prop against the Warriors. But they've been such a good matchup on the season as a whole that I'm not necessarily going to be scared off of 2 bad games. And overall, the Warriors literally have been the best matchup in the NBA for rebound props. They allow the most rebounds per game to centers in the entire NBA. And Gobert has gotten at least 10 rebounds in 67% of his games this season, and he's done it in 8 of his last 10. More importantly, averaging over 20 rebound chances per game in his last 10 games as well. The rebound chances is the most important thing here. Averaging over 20 per game, I'll gladly take him to get at least 10 rebounds while averaging over 20. The scary part is going to be the points, and not scary to the point where I don't even want to bet it. It's rebounds I'm much more confident that he gets to 10. The Warriors generally don't allow a lot of points to the center position, but if you look at the ways in which Gobert scores, they're actually not that bad of a matchup, right? Gobert has 4 play types above the main pick and roll ball handler, the pick and roll roll man, and that's kind of what the Warriors do a good job guarding. And you look at guys with similar scoring profiles to Gobert, they have had good games against the Warriors. Per Props Madness, 5 of 6 players with a similar shot profile to Gobert have hit their point prop over against the Warriors. That includes Clint Capella, Daniel Gafford, Derek Lively, Isaiah Hartenstein. All scored double digits against the Warriors. All went over their point prop as well. So some of them had a point prop over under of 10.5. Went over that. So not only got to double digits, but went over what their point prop was. And Rudy Gobert, he scores the 8th most points per game in the entire NBA via putbacks. It's the play type in which he scores the 2nd most of his points. And the Warriors allow the 3rd most points per game via putbacks. Now, the category in which Gobert scores number 1 in terms of his points is off of cuts. NBA.com doesn't give us defensive data off of cuts. I have no idea why, but they don't, so I can't give you any information there. But what I can tell you is we don't have anything for number 1. For number 2 and 3, in terms of the play types where Rudy Gobert scores the 2nd and 3rd most of his points, the Warriors are below average at guarding. And I also do think this is a nice fade of recent results, specifically for Gobert's point prop. He's missed it. He has not scored 10 points in 4 of his last 5 games. Prior to that, he had done it in 5 straight games. So nice fade of recent results there. In terms of the matchup, how has he performed against the Warriors? He got 10 rebounds in all 3 games against the Warriors last year, scored at least 10 points in 2 of them. I'm confident he gets a double-double tonight, rounding out our 5th and final pick of the video. And that's all we got. I appreciate everybody for watching. Make sure to like the video, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. Check out my Dub Club if you want all my plays sent to you for $5 a month. Appreciate everybody for watching, and have a good one.